Welcome to Seen and Noted podcast, where marketing insights, brand thinking, and cultural signals are unpacked for the people shaping brands every day. If it's shaping culture or shifting markets, we're paying attention. So let's get into it.
In our last episode, we set the scene, the product, the ambassador, the price, and the emotional weight that showed up before anything else. Today, we go into the noise. And honestly, some of it gets messier the closer you look. Absolutely. And I want to say something before we dive in. Social media reactions are too often dismissed. Oh, it was just Twitter. People just wanted to drag someone. But that attitude misses what's actually happening. What unfolded around Girls Tag was not random. It was people reacting to something that genuinely struck a nerve. Exactly. So let's look at what people actually said. There were two very distinct camps in this conversation, and I think both sides made logical arguments within their own frames. The problem was that they weren't really talking to each other. Let's start with the critics because they had a lot to say. A lot. One of the statements that circulated widely was, 25,000 naira is a lot of money for this pack. Many girls cannot afford it. Let's face reality. Am I supposed to buy a 25,000 naira pack every month? And that's where the deeper critique comes in. One user put it plainly. There is simply too much classism in Nigeria. A celebrity is out here promoting sanitary napkins at 25,000 naira in a country with some of the worst rates of period poverty and a minimum wage of 70,000 naira and calling it affordable? Affordable for who exactly? When you hold 25,000 naira next to a 70,000 naira minimum wage, the product isn't just expensive, it's structurally inaccessible to a large portion of the population. And we're not talking about a luxury handbag or a skincare serum. We're talking about a menstrual product, something tied to a biological reality that does not adjust itself based on your income level. Now, the counter-argument, because there was one. And their side wasn't united either. Some took the pure commercial angle. She's selling a premium product. Not everyone is a philanthropist. Not every business exists to solve Nigeria's problems. This is what she does for a living. This is business. And look, the free market argument has weight. Businesses are not charities. Premium goods exist. Targeting a specific market segment is a legitimate strategy. But, here's why that argument doesn't quite stick. It goes back to the marketing. If Girls Tag had positioned itself as a premium product for a specific audience, leaned fully into that lane, priced itself accordingly, and communicated accordingly, nobody would blink. Nobody attacks a luxury car brand for not making affordable vehicles. The problem is that Girls Tag didn't market itself that way. It wrapped the product in the language of empowerment. And the moment you invoke empowerment, you invite a conversation about access. Answering that conversation with 25,000 naira creates a contradiction that people will notice and talk about. And that's the tension right there. It's not a problem unique to this campaign. It's one that will keep coming up for Nigerian brands as social media makes these conversations faster and louder. Now, there was a third group of defenders who argued from the product side, not the business side. Their position was, this isn't just pads, it's a full kit. Period-proof underwear, a panty liner, a puberty guide. The 25,000 naira covers everything in the box. Isn't that fair value? And that has truth to it. When you break it down, a comprehensive kit with multiple components could reasonably justify a higher price point. But here's the issue. Justifying the price through product value still doesn't answer the question of affordability. Those are two separate conversations. And the critics weren't asking whether the price was fair, they were asking whether the people the campaign claimed to be empowering could actually afford it. That's exactly where the two sides were talking past each other. The defenders kept justifying the price, the critics kept questioning the access. They weren't having the same conversation. And then there was a third group. Honestly, the most interesting one. Oh yeah, tell me. This group redirected the outrage entirely. Someone made the point if we're serious about period poverty, the real pressure should be on politicians and policymakers, not on a brand ambassador. The problem isn't Mercy Johnson, it's that there's no subsidy for sanitary products in this country, no legislative framework guaranteeing menstrual health equity. And that's a genuinely important point, but it also reveals something about how marketing works at scale. Brands, whether they want to or not, can become symbols for systemic frustration. Your customers aren't just seeing the product, they're seeing everything it represents. No matter what the brand intended, the campaign becomes a screen onto which all that pre-existing frustration gets projected. So, how do you handle that from a marketing perspective? Because you can't control the frustration, it already exists, which means you can't fully control what your campaign becomes a symbol for. You can't, but you can be prepared for it, and that's the value of serious pre-launch thinking. What emotions already exist in this market? Who exactly is your audience? What will they feel when they see that price next to that message? What is the most uncharitable interpretation of your campaign, and do you have a ready answer for it? That's not pessimism. That's strategy. Exactly. The brands that come out of situations like this with their reputation intact are the ones who've done the work. They know who they're speaking to. They know why the message matters. And when the criticism comes, because it will come, they can defend themselves with clarity, not just PR. Now, let's talk about the celebrity side of this, because having Messi Johnson as the face of this campaign added a very specific layer to the reaction. There's a fundamental truth in celebrity marketing. When you attach a famous person to your product, you're not just borrowing their reach, you're borrowing their meaning. Everything that person represents to their audience comes along for the ride. And what Messi Johnson represents, particularly to Nigerian women, is relatability, warmth, everydayness. She's not a distant, aspirational figure. She's the kind of person the average woman feels she knows, which is precisely why she was a smart choice, on paper. But in this case, that relatability became a liability. Because if Messi Johnson is the woman who understands everyday Nigerian life, and she's endorsing a product at 25,000 naira, the audience immediately asks, does she actually know what everyday life looks like? That's how you get a comment like, she's an embarrassment to women. Which is a strong thing to say, but it tells you exactly how personal this became. It wasn't just criticism of a price point, it was disappointment in a person, someone people felt a connection to and felt betrayed by. And that's the double-edged nature of celebrity endorsement in a sensitive category. The celebrity personalizes the brand, that's their whole job, but personalization cuts both ways. When things go wrong, they go wrong personally. And the reverse is also true. Any negative noise around the ambassador spills back onto the brand. So now it's not just a pricing debate, it's a story with a face. Which brings me back to the question we ended on last week. Could this backlash have been avoided? My honest answer is probably not entirely, but it could have been handled differently. How? With clarity and with evidence. First, clarity about who the product is for. If this is a premium product for a premium audience, commit to that positioning. Don't reach for empowerment language that implies inclusivity when the product will remain out of reach for most people. Pick a lane and own it. Second, evidence behind the empowerment claim. If a brand says it's empowering girls, show us how. Is there a scholarship, a donation component, are free products going into schools? The claim can't just be a tagline, it has to be attached to something real. That's ultimately what this comes down to. Not the copy, not the visuals, not even the price really. It's about whether the story the brand is telling holds up when people start asking questions. And they will. Always. Consumers have evolved, not just in Nigeria but globally. They're not only evaluating products anymore, they're auditing narratives. They're checking for consistency between what a brand says and what a brand does. And when that gap is visible, they talk. And brands need to be ready with real answers, not press releases. All right, I think that's where we land today. We got into the noise, we unpacked the different camps, we talked about the celebrity dynamic and what it reveals about where Nigerian consumers are right now. And the conclusion is not that Girls Tag is a bad product or that Messi Johnson is a bad person. The conclusion is this. When a brand steps into a loaded category with a loaded message, the conversation it starts is bigger than the brand. And that conversation belongs to the audience now.
If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with someone in your circle. See you on the next one.